My name is Gloria, and I am a mother who has learned how to smile while hiding pain. Before I begin, let me say this. If you love emotional real-life stories that teach lessons about family, sacrifice, and truth, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss stories like this. Also, tell me in the comments which country you are watching from. I read every comment, and it means a lot to know you are here with me. Now, let me take you to the day everything changed. The door slammed so hard that the walls shook. I was standing in the kitchen, holding a cup of water, when I heard my son's voice from the living room. "Mom, we need to talk. Now." My hands began to shake. I already knew why he was here. He walked in fast, his face tight, his eyes angry. He did not hug me. He did not ask how I was doing. He did not even sit down first. He just said it. "I need money." Those 3 words hit my chest like a stone. I looked at him and saw the same boy I once carried on my back, the same child I fed with my last coin, the same son I stayed awake for when he was sick. But in that moment, he looked at me like I was just a wallet. "How much?" I asked softly. He sighed and rubbed his face. "A lot. And I need it today." My heart started beating fast, not because I didn't have money, but because of the truth I was hiding. A truth he never imagined. A truth that could destroy everything he believed about me. I walked to the chair and sat down slowly. My legs felt weak. "You know I'm not rich," I said carefully. He laughed, but there was no joy in it. "Mom, don't do that. You always say that. But you always find a way." That sentence hurt more than he knew. Yes, I always found a way. When his father left us. When there was no food in the house. When school fees were due. When rent was late. I found a way. But this time, the way was dangerous. He stepped closer to me. "Mom, if you don't help me, I'm finished." I looked up at his face, and suddenly, a memory rushed into my mind. Me, standing in the rain years ago, holding his school bag, begging a landlord to give us 1 more week. I swallowed hard. "What happened?" I asked. He hesitated. That pause told me everything. "You got into trouble again, didn't you?" I said. His eyes flashed. "Why do you always think the worst of me?" "Because I know you," I wanted to say. "Because I raised you. Because I've covered for you more times than I can count." But I stayed quiet. He turned away and began pacing the room. "I made a mistake. That's all. Everyone makes mistakes." I closed my eyes. If only he knew. If only he knew what I had been hiding for years. If only he knew the money he was asking for was tied to a secret I promised myself would never come out. "Mom," he said again, louder this time. "Are you going to help me or not?" I stood up. And for a second, I almost told him everything. I almost told him about the envelope hidden deep inside my old wooden box. I almost told him about the papers with his name written on them. I almost told him the truth about where the money really came from. But fear stopped me. Because once the truth comes out, it can never be taken back. "I need time," I said. His face changed instantly. "Time." That was not the answer he wanted. "Time," he repeated. "Mom, I don't have time." He slammed his hand on the table. "Do you know what will happen if I don't pay?" I shook my head, even though I already had an idea. "They will take everything from me," he said. "My business. My house. My respect." I looked at him carefully. Something did not add up. "You said last month everything was going well," I said slowly. He looked away. That was when my stomach dropped. He was lying. Again. I took a deep breath. "Sit down," I said. "No," he snapped. "I don't want to sit. I want money." Those words hurt more than any slap ever could. I walked past him and opened a small drawer in the living room. Inside was nothing but old keys and memories. But behind that drawer, hidden where no one ever looked, was the key to the truth. My fingers touched it. I froze. If I gave him money today, I would be opening a door I had kept locked for years. If I refused, I might lose my son forever. He watched me closely. "Mom," he said, his voice suddenly soft. "Please. You're the only one I have." Tears filled my eyes. Because the truth was, I had been protecting him from himself for too long. And today, his visit was not just about money. It was about a secret that was ready to explode. I turned around to face him. And just as I opened my mouth to speak, my phone rang. I looked at the screen. The name that appeared made my blood run cold. Because that call was connected to the truth my son did not know I was hiding. And answering it could change everything. The phone kept ringing in my hand. I stared at the screen like it was a snake ready to bite me. My son noticed my face change. "Who is that?" he asked quickly. I did not answer. The ringing stopped. Silence filled the room, heavy and uncomfortable. My son stepped closer. "Mom, who was calling you?" I locked my phone and slipped it into my pocket. My heart was beating so fast I thought he could hear it. "It's nobody," I lied. He narrowed his eyes. "Nobody doesn't make you look like that." I forced a small smile. "It's just an old number." He did not believe me. I could tell. But right now, his problem was bigger than his curiosity. "So," he said, crossing his arms, "are you helping me or not?" I walked back to my chair and sat down again. My legs felt weak, like they could give up at any moment. "Sit," I said softly. This time, he listened. He dropped into the chair across from me, rubbing his hands together. His foot kept tapping on the floor. That was something he did when he was nervous. He used to do it as a child before exams. I looked at him carefully. "When did this problem start?" I asked. He hesitated again. That pause. It always came before a lie. "A few months ago," he said. I nodded slowly. "And how much money do you need?" He gave me a number. My chest tightened. It was not small. It was not normal. It was dangerous. "What did you do?" I asked quietly. He lifted his head fast. "Why do you always ask me that?" "Because money like this doesn't just disappear," I replied. He stood up suddenly. "I made a bad investment, okay? That's it." I stayed calm. "With who? Does it matter?" he snapped. Yes. It mattered a lot. Because the name on my phone. The call I didn't answer. It was from someone connected to bad investments. Very bad ones. I folded my hands together. "You're hiding something from me." He laughed, but it sounded fake. "You're one to talk, Mom." That sentence froze me. "What do you mean?" I asked. He looked at me closely, like he was studying my face. "You always say you're just surviving. But you never explain how." My heart skipped. "What are you trying to say?" I asked. He shrugged. "I'm saying, you've helped me too many times for someone who claims to have nothing." I swallowed hard. He was getting closer to the truth. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was dark. Night was coming fast. "You think I'm hiding money," I said. "I think you're hiding something," he replied. I closed my eyes. If only he knew how right he was. "Listen," I said, turning back to him. "I didn't raise you to shout at me." He sighed and ran his hands through his hair. "I'm sorry. I'm just scared." That word broke me. Scared. I remembered holding him when he was little, whispering, "Don't be afraid. Mommy is here." Now he was a grown man, standing in my living room, afraid again. "Who are you in trouble with?" I asked gently. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Another pause. Another lie forming. "I can't tell you," he said. That was my answer. I walked slowly toward my bedroom door. "Where are you going?" he asked. "To get something," I said. He followed me. "What?" I stopped and turned to him. "Please. Just wait." Inside my bedroom, I locked the door. My hands were shaking as I walked to the old wooden box under my bed. The box was scratched and worn. No one ever touched it. No one ever asked about it. I opened it. Inside were old photos, folded letters, and the envelope. The envelope that held the truth. I picked it up and sat on the bed. Years ago, I promised myself I would only open it if everything went wrong. Everything was going wrong. I took a deep breath and opened it. Inside were documents. Legal papers. Receipts. Proof. Proof that the money my son was asking for did not belong to me the way he thought it did. Proof that his life had been protected by a lie for years. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. "Mom." His voice sounded softer now. "Please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell." Tears filled my eyes. "I know," I whispered. Another knock. Louder. "Mom, are you okay?" I wiped my face quickly and slid the envelope back into the box. "I'm fine," I said. "Give me a minute." I needed time to think. If I gave him the money, he would never learn. If I told him the truth, he might hate me forever. My phone vibrated again. The same number. This time, a message came in. "We need to talk. He is in more trouble than you think." My heart dropped. They knew about him. I stared at the message, my hands trembling. Outside the door, my son leaned against the wall, waiting. He had no idea that people were already watching him. He had no idea that his problem was bigger than money. He had no idea that the truth I was hiding could save him, or destroy him. I unlocked the door and stepped out. He looked at my face and frowned. "Mom, what's wrong?" I took a deep breath. "I can help you," I said slowly. His eyes lit up with hope. "You can. But," I added, "before I give you anything, you need to tell me the truth." His smile faded. "All of it," I said. He looked away. The room felt tight. Heavy. Then he spoke. "Mom, if I tell you everything, you might never look at me the same way again." My heart ached. "Try me," I said. He opened his mouth to speak. And just then, a loud knock hit the front door. Not a normal knock. A hard one. The kind that means trouble. We both froze. "Were you expecting someone?" he whispered. I shook my head slowly. The knocking came again. Louder. My phone buzzed one last time in my pocket. "They are at your house." I looked at my son. And in that moment I knew. This was no longer just about money. The knocking did not stop. It grew louder. Harder. Faster. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat. I looked at my son, and for the first time since he walked into my house, the anger on his face disappeared. What I saw instead was fear. Real fear. "Mom," he whispered. "Who is that?" I did not answer him. I could not. Because I already knew. I walked slowly toward the front door. Every step felt heavy, like my feet were sinking into the floor. My son followed closely behind me. "Don't open it," he said under his breath. "Let's pretend we're not home." I stopped and turned to him. "That won't work." "How do you know?" he asked. "Because I have been running from this moment for years," I wanted to say. The knocking came again. This time, a voice followed. "Open the door." It was deep. Cold. Not friendly. My son grabbed my arm. "Mom, please." I gently pulled away. I placed my hand on the door handle and took a deep breath. When I opened the door, two men stood outside. They were not smiling. One was tall and thin, wearing a dark jacket. The other was wider, with arms folded across his chest. Both of them looked past me and into my house, like they already owned it. Good evening, the tall one said. We need to talk. About what? I asked, even though my voice was shaking. You know exactly about what, he replied. My son stepped forward. Who are you? The tall man smiled, but it was not a kind smile. We are friends of your son. My son froze. Friends. That word tasted bitter. I don't know you, my son said. The wider man laughed softly. Oh, you know us. You just didn't think we would come to your mother's house. Silence filled the doorway. I felt my chest tighten. You should not be here, I said. The tall man looked at me. We should have been here a long time ago. He leaned closer and lowered his voice. You have been very difficult to reach. My phone vibrated in my pocket, like it was agreeing with him. My son looked between us, confused. Mom, what's going on? I stepped in front of him without thinking. This is my house, I said firmly. If you have something to say it quickly. The tall man nodded slowly. Fair enough. He looked at my son. You borrowed money. You promised to return it. Time is up. My son's face went pale. I told you, he said, his voice shaking. I just need more time. The wider man shook his head. Time is something you no longer have. I felt my knees weaken. Please, I said. He is my son. The tall man looked at me like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. Yes. We know. That sentence scared me more than anything else. How? I asked. He smiled again. We do our homework. My son turned to me sharply. Mom, what does he mean? I closed my eyes. This was the moment I feared. They know about me, I said quietly. Both men raised their eyebrows, surprised. Interesting, the tall one said. So you finally figured it out. Figured what out? My son asked, his voice rising. I opened my eyes and looked at him. This problem didn't start with you. He stared at me. What are you saying? The tall man crossed his arms. Maybe we should all sit down. No, my son snapped. Tell me now. I swallowed hard. Years ago, after your father left, I almost lost everything. I was desperate. I made choices I never wanted to make. But I could not say all that yet. Close the door, the wider man said. No, I replied quickly. The tall man sighed. We're not here to hurt anyone. Not yet. That word, yet, sent chills through me. Please, I said again. Give us a moment. Just us. The tall man studied my face for a long second. 5 minutes, he said. We'll wait outside. He stepped back. Before leaving, he looked directly at my son. Do not try to run. They walked a few steps away and stood near a car parked by the road. I closed the door and locked it. The moment the lock clicked, my son turned to me. What is happening? He shouted. Who are those men? I held up my hand. Lower your voice. Why? He asked. So they can't hear the truth? His words cut deep. You are not the only one with secrets, I said quietly. He laughed, but his eyes were wild. What secret could you possibly have that's bigger than this? I took a deep breath. The money you borrowed, I said slowly. You didn't just borrow it from anyone. He froze. You borrowed it from people connected to something I tried to escape years ago, I continued. What are you talking about? He asked. I walked to the couch and sat down. My legs could no longer hold me. Sit, I said. He hesitated, then sat across from me. I stared at my hands. After your father left, I began. I had nothing. No help. No family. No one. He listened, but his face was hard. I worked day and night, I continued. Still, it wasn't enough. I paused. There was a man who offered help. My son leaned forward. What kind of help? Money, I whispered. His eyes widened. From who? I shook my head. The kind of people you don't ask questions. Silence filled the room. You took money from them? He asked. Yes. For what? He demanded. To feed you, I said. To keep you in school. To keep a roof over our heads. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I paid it back, I said quickly. Every cent. With years of my life. He stood up and began pacing. You're lying, he said. You always told me we survived because you worked hard. I did work hard, I replied. But sometimes, hard work is not enough. He stopped pacing and looked at me. Then why are they here now? He asked. Because I never truly escaped, I wanted to say. They are here, I said, because when you borrowed money, you used my name as a reference. His face drained of color. I didn't think, he started. You didn't think, I repeated softly. Outside, I heard a car door close. My heart jumped. They are not patient men, I said. My son grabbed his head. I didn't know any of this. I know, I said. That's why I'm trying to protect you. By lying to me, he shouted. Yes, I said firmly. By lying. Because the truth can destroy a child, even when he is grown. A loud knock hit the door again. Time's up, the tall man called. My son looked at me, panic in his eyes. What do we do? He whispered. I stood up slowly. There is still one thing they don't know, I said. What? He asked. I walked toward the bedroom. The truth I've been hiding, even from them. My son followed me. Mom, he said, his voice shaking. What did you do? I stopped at the bedroom door and turned to him. I did something to make sure you would never owe anyone again, I said. Another knock. Harder. Open the door, the voice shouted. I opened the bedroom door and reached under the bed. I pulled out the wooden box. My son stared at it. What is that? He asked. I looked him in the eyes. The reason they can't touch you, I said. And just as I opened the box, the front door handle started to turn. The front door handle rattled hard. Once. Twice. 3 times. My heart slammed against my chest. They're trying to come in, my son whispered. I held the wooden box tightly, pressing it against my chest like it could protect us. They won't, I said, even though I wasn't sure. Another hard knock hit the door. Open this door now, the tall man shouted. My son grabbed my arm. Mom, we need to call the police. I shook my head. Not yet. Why not? He demanded. Because the police won't protect us from the truth, I thought. I stepped away from the bedroom door and moved toward the living room, the box still in my hands. My son followed closely, his eyes fixed on the box. What's inside that thing? He asked again. I did not answer. I placed the box on the table and slowly opened it. Inside were old papers, faded photographs, and a thick envelope tied with a string. My son leaned closer. That's it, he asked. Old papers. These papers, I said quietly, are the reason I'm still alive. Another bang hit the door. You have 10 seconds, the voice outside warned. I ignored it. I picked up a photograph from the box and handed it to my son. He looked at it, confused. That's me, he said. When I was a kid. Yes, I replied. Why is it here? Look closer, I said. He frowned and turned the photo over. There was writing on the back. A name. A date. And an amount of money. His hands began to shake. What is this? He asked. It's proof, I said. Proof of what? He asked sharply. I took a deep breath. Years ago, I began. When I borrowed that money, I didn't just promise to pay it back. He looked at me slowly. What did you promise? I swallowed hard. I promised something more valuable. Another knock. Louder. 5 seconds. My son's voice trembled. Mom. I lifted the envelope tied with the string. When I realized I could never truly escape them, I said, I made a different kind of deal. His eyes widened. What kind of deal? I untied the string and opened the envelope. Inside were legal documents. My son grabbed one and read it. His face changed. Why is my name on this? He asked. Because it was about you, I replied. His voice rose. About me how? I took a step back, my heart breaking. They wanted leverage, I said. Insurance. He stared at me in shock. Insurance for what? For my debt, I whispered. The knocking stopped. The silence was worse. My son dropped the papers. You used me. No, I said quickly. I protected you. How is this protection? He shouted. Because I never let them touch you, I said. Not once. Not ever. Tears filled his eyes. But my name is here. Yes, I said. On paper. Only on paper. The tall man's voice came through the door, calm now. We know you have something, Gloria. My son froze. They know your name. They've always known my name, I replied. The wider man laughed. You can't hide forever. My son looked at me like he didn't recognize me. You told them about me? He asked. No, I said. They found out on their own. I picked up another document and placed it in his hands. Read the last page, I said. He flipped to the end and began reading. His breathing changed. This says the debt was closed, he whispered. Yes, I said. In full, he added. Yes. Then why are they here? He asked. Because closure on paper doesn't erase greed, I thought. They want something else, I said. The door shook violently as someone kicked it. My son jumped. What do they want now? I looked at the envelope in my hand. They want the truth, I said. And what truth is that? He asked. I met his eyes. That the money you borrowed never belonged to them. His mouth dropped open. What? They used stolen funds, I said. And I found out. Outside, there was sudden silence. No knocking. No voices. That scared me even more. You mean, my son whispered, they are criminals? Yes, I said. And you knew this? He asked. Yes. Then why didn't you tell anyone? He shouted. Because telling the truth can get you killed, I replied. A voice suddenly came through the window. You always were smart, Gloria. We both turned. The tall man was standing outside the window now, his face visible through the glass. But smart people still make mistakes, he said. My son backed away. Mom. They know, I whispered. The tall man smiled. You should have stayed quiet. My phone buzzed again. One final message. If you open that envelope fully, you put him in danger. My hands shook. What happens if they get those papers? My son asked. They will lose everything, I said. And what happens to us? He asked. I looked at him, my heart breaking. We either walk free, I said, or we disappear. The front door lock snapped. It broke. The door began to open. I grabbed my son's hand. Whatever happens next, I said, remember this. What? He asked, his voice shaking. I did everything for you. The door flew open, and the men stepped inside. The moment the men stepped inside, the air in the room changed. It felt heavier, colder. The tall man entered first, calm and confident, like he owned the place. The wider man followed, locking the broken door behind him. My son stood frozen beside me. Sit, the tall man said casually, pointing at the couch. No, my son snapped. The wider man took one step forward. I raised my hand quickly. Please. He will sit. My son looked at me, anger and fear fighting in his eyes, then slowly sat down. I sat beside him, still holding his hand. The tall man smiled. Good. We don't like shouting. I swallowed hard. Then why did you break my door? Because you stopped listening, he replied. He looked at the wooden box on the table. You kept it all these years, he said. I'm impressed. My son tightened his grip on my hand. You know what that is? The tall man laughed softly. Of course. It's our past. Our? My son asked. Yes, the man replied, turning to me. Your mother and I go way back. My son looked at me in shock. Mom. I forced myself to stay calm. That was another life. The tall man shook his head. No, Gloria. It was the same life. You just pretended it wasn't. He reached for the box. Don't touch that, I said sharply. He stopped, raised his hands, and smiled. Relax. I'm not here to steal. Then why are you here? My son demanded. The wider man spoke for the first time. To fix a problem. What problem? My son asked. You, the wider man said. I felt my son stiffen beside me. I paid my debt, I said quickly. You know that. The tall man nodded. Yes. On paper. He leaned closer. But then your son showed up. My son stood up. I didn't know any of this. We know, the tall man said. That's what makes this unfortunate. He pulled out a phone and placed it on the table. Look, he said. The screen showed photos. My son. With people I did not recognize. Signing papers. Taking cash. My heart dropped. What is this? My son whispered. Your business deal, the tall man replied. Very foolish. My son turned to me. Mom, I swear, I didn't know who they were. I believe you, I said softly. The tall man tilted his head. That's sweet. But belief doesn't erase debt. I already told you, I said. The money he took wasn't yours. The room went quiet. The wider man's jaw tightened. You should be careful, he said. Accusations like that can get people hurt. I'm not accusing, I replied. I have proof. The tall man smiled. That little box. Yes, I said. Everything is there. My son looked between us. Mom, what proof? I took a deep breath. The money you borrowed, I said to my son, came from accounts that were already under investigation. His eyes widened. Investigation by who? I did not answer. The tall man's smile faded slightly. You've been busy. I had to be, I replied. He laughed once. You always were smarter than we gave you credit for. The wider man crossed his arms. Enough talking. He looked at my son. You have two choices. What choices? My son asked. Choice one, he said. You pay the full amount. With interest. And choice two? My son asked quietly. The wider man looked at me. Your mother gives us the box, he said. And we walk away. My son turned to me fast. Mom, don't. I closed my eyes. They didn't want money anymore. They wanted silence. If I give you the box, I said slowly, what happens to him? The tall man shrugged. We forget he exists. And me? I asked. The tall man smiled. You already know. My son jumped up. No. You can't do this. The wider man stepped closer. Sit down. My son didn't move. I stood up in front of him. He stays out of this. The tall man sighed. You never learned when to stop being a mother. I opened the box and took out the envelope. My son grabbed my arm. Mom, please. You said this could set us free. It still can, I said softly. I turned to the tall man. You want the truth? I asked. He nodded. Yes. I held up the envelope. This truth doesn't just destroy you, I said. It destroys everyone connected to you. His eyes darkened. You wouldn't. I already did, I replied. Both men froze. What do you mean? The wider man asked. I smiled sadly. Those papers are copies. The room went silent. The tall man's smile disappeared completely. You made copies? He asked. Yes, I said. Years ago. Where are they? He demanded. In safe hands, I replied. My son stared at me. Mom, what did you do? I protected you, I said. The tall man took a step toward me. You think you're safe? My phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen. We are moving now. Stay calm. I locked eyes with the tall man. You're already too late, I said. The wider man pulled out his phone, his hands shaking. The tall man's face tightened. You lied to us, he said quietly. No, I replied. I survived you. Suddenly, sirens sounded in the distance. Faint, but real. My son gasped. Is that the police? The tall man looked toward the window. The sound grew louder. His jaw clenched. This isn't over, he said. The wider man grabbed his arm. We need to go. They backed toward the door. The tall man turned to me one last time. You made an enemy today, he said. I met his eyes. I made a choice. They rushed out the door and disappeared into the night. The sirens grew closer. My son collapsed onto the couch, shaking. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. Mom, he whispered. What have you done? I sat beside him and held his face. I saved you, I said. But deep down I knew. This was far from over. Because the truth I was hiding had finally come out. And there would be consequences. The sirens faded into the distance. For a moment, the house was completely silent. No shouting. No threats. No footsteps. Just the sound of my son breathing fast, like he had just escaped drowning. He sat on the couch with his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. His hands were shaking. I stood near the broken door, staring at the night outside, making sure the men were truly gone. Only when I was certain did I turn back to him. It's over, I said softly. He did not look up. No, he replied quietly. It's not. That hurt more than anything the men had said. I walked slowly and sat beside him. You're safe, I said. He laughed bitterly. Safe. Mom, my whole life just cracked open. I had no answer for that. He finally looked at me. His eyes were red. Not from fear now, but from betrayal. You lied to me, he said. Yes, I replied. For years, he added. Yes. He stood up suddenly and began pacing the room. You told me we struggled because life was hard, he said. You told me everything we had came from your work. That was also true, I said. But not the whole truth, he snapped. No, I admitted. He ran his hands through his hair. So all this time, he said slowly, my life was tied to criminals? I stood up. Your life was tied to my choices. That's worse, he shouted. His voice echoed in the room. I flinched, but I did not step back. I was a child, he continued. You should have protected me. I did protect you, I said firmly. By putting my name on secret papers, he yelled. Yes, I said again. He stopped pacing and stared at me. How can you say that so easily? He asked. Because I've lived with it every day, I thought. I put your name on paper so they would never touch you in real life, I said. I became the shield. He shook his head. You made me a target. No, I replied. I made you invisible. He laughed without humor. Invisible? They came to our house. Because you went looking for them, I said gently. That stopped him. What do you mean? He asked. I took a deep breath. You borrowed money without knowing where it came from, I said. But you used my name. My past. That woke them up. His shoulders dropped. I didn't know, he whispered. I know, I said. Silence fell again. Then he asked the question I feared. Did you ever think of telling me? He asked quietly. I closed my eyes. Yes, I said. When? He asked. Every time you smiled, I said. Every time you slept peacefully. He looked at me, confused. I didn't want to take that away from you, I continued. Fear changes children, even grown ones. He sat back down slowly. So you decided for me, he said. Yes, I replied. Because I'm your mother. His eyes filled with tears. You don't get to decide my life forever, he said. I know, I whispered. That broke me. I sat beside him again. I never planned for this to come back, I said. I thought it was buried. He wiped his face. But it wasn't. No, I agreed. There was a knock at the door. We both jumped. I raised my hand, signaling him to stay quiet. The knock came again. This one was different. Official. Police, a voice called. My son looked at me. Is this part of your plan? Yes, I said. I walked to the door and opened it carefully. 2 officers stood outside. Ma'am, one of them said. Are you safe? Yes, I replied. They looked past me at the broken door. We received a report, the officer continued. Can you tell us what happened? I nodded. I told them enough. Not everything. Not yet. They took notes, asked questions, and promised to follow up. When they left, the house felt empty again. My son sat quietly for a long time. Finally, he spoke. What happens now? He asked. I hesitated. That depends, I said. On what? He asked. On whether you're ready to know everything, I replied. He swallowed hard. Everything? He asked. Yes, I said. He looked at the wooden box on the table. The whole truth, he whispered. Yes. He nodded slowly. I want to know, he said. My heart ached. Once I start, I said, you can't unhear it. I already can't, he replied. I opened the box again. This time, I took out the documents I had never shown anyone. These are not copies, I said. He leaned in. What are they? He asked. Confessions, I replied. His breath caught. Yours? He asked. Mine, I said. Written statements. Dates. Names. He read one line and looked up at me in shock. This says you. I raised my hand. I did things I'm not proud of. For me? He asked. For you, I confirmed. He dropped the papers like they were burning him. Mom, he whispered. I felt tears roll down my face. I became someone I hated, I said. So you could become someone better. He looked away. I don't know how to forgive that, he said. I'm not asking you to, I replied. He turned back to me. Then why tell me now? Because they won't stop, I said. What do you mean? He asked. They will come again, I replied. Just not tonight. Fear returned to his eyes. What do we do? He asked. I took a deep breath. We stop running, I said. And how do we do that? He asked. I looked him straight in the eyes. By finishing what I started, I said. He swallowed. What does that mean? It means, I said slowly, you're going to have to trust me one last time. The room went quiet. Outside, the wind howled. And somewhere in the distance, a car engine started. The night felt longer than it should have. My son sat quietly on the couch, his arms folded, his eyes fixed on the wooden box like it might suddenly open by itself. I stayed near the window, watching the street, counting every passing car, every shadow that moved. Neither of us slept. Trust had become fragile between us, thin as glass, ready to shatter with one wrong word. You said they'll come back, my son finally said. Yes, I replied. When? He asked. I shook my head. I don't know. But men like that don't forget. He stood up and began pacing again, slower this time, more controlled. So what's the plan? He asked. You said we stop running. Yes, I said. But stopping doesn't mean standing still. He stopped pacing and faced me. Then tell me. No more half-truths. I nodded. Fair. I walked to the table and spread out the documents again. These papers, I said, connect everything. The money, the people, the fake accounts. You already gave copies to someone, he said. Yes, I replied. But copies only scare people. Then what ends this? He asked. The originals, I said. He frowned. I thought you said those were dangerous. They are, I said. That's why they work. He sat down slowly. Who has the copies? Someone who has been waiting for years, I said. He leaned forward. Waiting for what? For me to stop being afraid, I replied. Silence stretched between us. You planned this, he said quietly. I prepared for it, I corrected. He shook his head. All this time, you were planning something bigger. I was planning survival, I said. He looked away. And I just walked right into it. Yes, I admitted. But not on purpose. He rubbed his face. So what do you need from me? That question scared me. Because this was the part one never wanted him involved in. I need you to stay out of sight, I said. He laughed once. That didn't work last time. This time it will, I said. If you listen. He studied my face. You're asking me to trust you again. Yes, I replied. After everything? He asked. I nodded. He stood up and walked to the window beside me. You know, he said quietly, my whole life, I thought you were just strong. I said nothing. But now, he continued, I see how tired you are. That broke something inside me. I didn't want you to see that, I whispered. I see it anyway, he said. We stood there in silence. Then his phone buzzed. He froze. Slowly, he pulled it out. His face changed instantly. What is it? I asked. He swallowed. It's a message. From who? I asked. He hesitated. From one of them, he said. My heart dropped. What does it say? I asked. He read it silently, then handed me the phone. We know you're still with her. You have until morning. My hands began to shake. They're pressuring you now, I said. Yes, he replied. Because they think you'll protect me. They're right, I said. He looked at me. Then maybe I shouldn't be here. No, I said sharply. That's what they want. He turned to me. Then what do we do tonight? I took a deep breath. We leave, I said. Leave where? He asked. To finish this, I replied. I went to the bedroom and pulled out an old bag. He watched me pack documents, the wooden box, and a small envelope. Where are we going? He asked again. To meet someone I hoped you'd never have to meet, I said. Fear crossed his face. Who? I stopped packing and looked at him. The person who helped me disappear the first time, I said. His eyes widened. Disappear? Yes, I replied. Legally. A car passed slowly outside. Too slowly. My son looked at the window. Do you think they're watching? I'm sure of it, I said. I zipped the bag shut. We leave through the back, I said. He nodded, but his hands were shaking. As we moved toward the back door, his phone buzzed again. Another message. He opened it. This time, his face went pale. What? I asked. He looked at me, terrified. They know about the documents, he said. I stopped. That's impossible, I said. He handed me the phone. Bring the papers. Come alone. Or he pays for it. My chest tightened. They're forcing a choice, I whispered. My son looked at me. Mom, they're talking about me. I reached for him. No. They're trying to control me. He pulled back gently. You said you did everything for me, he said. Yes, I replied. Then let me do something for you, he said quietly. What do you mean? I asked. He took a step toward the front door. I'll go, he said. Alone. My heart shattered. No, I said firmly. I won't allow it. You don't get to decide forever, he replied softly. Those words cut deeper than any threat. If I go, he continued, they won't hurt you. I shook my head. That's a lie. But they believe it, he said. He reached for the door. I grabbed his arm. If you walk out that door, I might never see you again. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. If I stay, he said, they'll come for both of us. We stood there, locked in place. Mother, son. 2 lives balanced on one decision. Then the doorbell rang. Once. Slow. Deliberate. My son whispered. They're here. I tightened my grip on his arm. And in that moment I knew. Whatever happened next would change everything. The doorbell rang again. Slow. Calm. Confident. Not rushed. Not angry. That scared me more than shouting ever could. My son and I stood frozen in the hallway. His hand was still on the door handle. Mine was still gripping his arm. Don't move, I whispered. Another ring. This time, a voice followed. Low and controlled. Open the door. We just want to talk. My son looked at me. Mom, we can't ignore that. I know, I said. But knowing didn't make it easier. I released his arm and stepped in front of him, placing myself between the door and my child, the same way I had done when he was little and afraid of the dark. I took a deep breath and opened the door just a little. The tall man stood there alone. No partner. No raised voice. No threat in his hands. But his eyes were sharp. You should have answered sooner, he said. I was thinking, I replied. He smiled faintly. Thinking usually makes things worse. My son stepped forward. Say what you want and leave. The tall man looked at him carefully. You look tired. Get to the point, my son snapped. The man nodded. Fair. He leaned slightly closer to the door. We know you're planning to run. I said nothing. We also know, he continued, you still have the originals. My son's jaw tightened. And we know, the man added, you already shared copies. Silence. The man sighed. You've caused a lot of noise, Gloria. You caused this, I replied. He shrugged. We created an opportunity. You used it. He glanced at my son. And now your son is standing in the middle of a war he didn't know existed. That's enough, my son said. The man smiled again. You see. He's brave. I felt anger rise in my chest. Why are you here? The man straightened. Because tonight ends this. How? I asked. He held up his phone and tapped the screen. By trading, he said. My heart sank. What kind of trade? My son asked. The man looked directly at him. You. I stepped forward instantly. No. The man raised a hand. Not forever. That's what you said last time, I snapped. He sighed. This doesn't need to get ugly. It already is, my son said. The man looked at him again. You walk away with us for a few hours. We make sure certain papers disappear. Everyone sleeps peacefully again. And if I say no? My son asked. The man's smile faded. Then the people you care about become very uncomfortable. My stomach twisted. You promised, I said. I promised to walk away, he replied. I didn't promise forgiveness. My son looked at me. Really looked at me. And in that look, I saw something I had not seen before. Understanding. You did all this alone, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. For years, he added. Yes. He nodded slowly. Then he turned to the man. I'll go, he said. No, I shouted. My son raised his hand. Mom, listen. The man watched closely, clearly pleased. If I go, my son continued, you leave her alone. The man considered it. For tonight. That's not enough, I said. My son turned to me. Mom, you taught me something. I shook my head, tears filling my eyes. Not like this. You taught me that hiding doesn't fix anything, he said. It only delays it. I grabbed his hands. You are not a deal. I'm already part of it, he replied softly. The man checked his watch. Time. I felt panic rush through me. I looked at the wooden box sitting on the table behind us. Then at my son. Then back at the man. You want leverage? I said suddenly. The man's eyes narrowed. What are you offering? I stepped back inside the house and picked up the box. I'll come with him, I said. My son spun toward me. No. The man studied me carefully. Interesting, he said. I walk with him, I continued. You don't touch him. Not now. Not later. The man smiled slowly. You never stop surprising me. I'm serious, I said. He nodded once. All right. My son shook his head violently. Mom, this is insane. I started this, I said. I finish it. The man gestured toward the car outside. Both of you. We stepped out into the night. The street was quiet. Too quiet. The car waited at the curb, engine running. Before we reached it, my son leaned close to me and whispered, Do you have a plan? Yes, I whispered back. What is it? He asked. I met his eyes. The truth, I said. The man opened the car door. Get in. As we stepped toward it, my phone vibrated silently in my pocket. One message. Just 3 words. Now or never. I closed my eyes. Because I knew. The next move would either end everything. Or cost me my son. The car door closed behind us with a dull, heavy sound. That sound felt final. Like a door closing on our old lives. I sat in the back seat beside my son. The tall man sat in the front passenger seat. Another driver I had never seen before started the engine without a word. No one spoke. The car pulled away slowly, calmly, as if nothing dangerous was happening at all. My son kept his eyes forward, his jaw tight. I could feel the tension in his body, like a wire stretched too far. I leaned slightly toward him. Remember what I told you, I whispered. He nodded once. The truth. Yes, I said. The tall man glanced at us through the mirror. Whispering already? He asked. That won't help. I met his eyes in the mirror. I'm reminding my son that he's not alone. He smiled. He stopped being alone the moment he signed those papers. My son clenched his fists. The car drove for several minutes in silence, turning down streets I did not recognize. Each turn took us farther away from anything familiar. Where are you taking us? My son asked. Somewhere quiet, the man replied. Somewhere we can finish this without interruptions. I felt my phone vibrate again in my pocket. I did not take it out. Not yet. We finally stopped in front of a large, empty-looking building. No lights. No signs. Just concrete and darkness. Out, the man said. The driver stepped out first, then opened our door. I placed my hand on my son's arm before he could move. Stay close to me, I whispered. Inside the building, the air smelled old and cold. Every footstep echoed loudly, making the space feel even bigger and more dangerous. The man led us into a wide room with a single table in the center. Sit, he said. We sat. He placed a folder on the table. Everything ends here, he said calmly. One way or another. My son leaned forward. You said this was about the papers. It is, the man replied. And about trust. I laughed softly. Trust? From you. He did not smile this time. You made copies, he said. You shared them. Yes, I replied. With who? He asked. I shook my head. That information isn't free. The man's eyes hardened. You're in no position to bargain. I disagree, I said. You wouldn't have brought us here if I wasn't. Silence filled the room. My son looked between us, confused but alert. What happens if she doesn't tell you? He asked. The man turned to him. Then we take back control. My son swallowed. And what does that mean? The man did not answer immediately. That means, I said quietly, people disappear. My son's eyes widened. I reached for his hand under the table and squeezed it gently. I told you, I whispered. The truth is dangerous. But it's also powerful. The man leaned back in his chair. Enough speeches. He slid the folder toward me. Those are copies, he said. Useless to us. I opened the folder and pretended to examine the papers. You want the originals, I said. Yes, he replied. And in exchange? I asked. You walk away, he said. Both of you. I looked at my son. Do you believe him? I asked softly. My son hesitated. I don't know. That's the right answer, I said. The man slammed his hand on the table. Time is running out. So is yours, I replied. His eyes flashed. You think you've won? No, I said. I think I've delayed you long enough. My phone vibrated again. This time, I took it out. The man leaned forward. Put that away. I didn't. I looked at the screen. We are in position. Give the word. My heart pounded. My son noticed my face change. Mom. What's happening? I looked at him. At the boy I once carried on my back. At the man who had just offered himself to protect me. This is the part where you listen very carefully, I said. The man stood up. What are you doing? I stood too. I told you, I said calmly. I finished running. He reached into his jacket. My son stood up instantly. Don't. Sit down, the man snapped. No, my son replied firmly. You don't control us anymore. For the first time, the man looked uncertain. I took a slow step forward. The truth you want, I said. It's already moving. What did you do? He demanded. I smiled sadly. I gave the originals to someone who doesn't bargain. The room went deadly quiet. You wouldn't dare, he said. I already did, I replied. Suddenly, distant footsteps echoed through the building. Not one pair. Many. The man's face changed. He backed away slowly. This wasn't the deal. This was never a deal, I said. It was a confession. My son looked around, panic and hope mixing in his eyes. Mom, are we safe? He whispered. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to promise. But before I could answer, a door slammed open somewhere behind us. Voices shouted. The man lunged toward my son. I screamed his name. And everything exploded into chaos. Everything happened at once. The tall man lunged toward my son, his hand reaching inside his jacket. I did not think. I did not scream. I moved. I stepped between them. Stop! I shouted. The man froze for half a second. Just half. That was enough. Voices thundered through the building. Heavy footsteps slammed against the floor. Lights flashed across the walls. Don't move. Men in dark uniforms rushed in from every direction. The sound of authority filled the room. Orders were shouted. Someone grabbed the tall man's arm and slammed him to the ground. Another pulled the driver away before he could run. My son stood frozen, his eyes wide, his chest rising and falling fast. I reached for him. He was shaking. "It's over," I whispered, even though my own body was trembling. He looked at me, tears spilling down his face. "Mom, you didn't tell me everything." I nodded slowly. "I know." The tall man was dragged past us, his face twisted with anger and disbelief. "You think this ends it?" he shouted at me. "You think the truth saves you?" I met his eyes calmly. "No," I said. "But it frees my son." They took him away. The building slowly emptied. The shouting faded. The danger passed like a storm, finally moving on. An officer approached us. "Ma'am," he said respectfully, "you did the right thing." I nodded, but my heart felt heavy. Because doing the right thing does not erase the past. We were taken outside. Fresh air hit my face. For the first time in hours, I could breathe without fear. My son sat on the steps, his head in his hands. I sat beside him. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, he broke the silence. "So, all those years," he said quietly, "you weren't just struggling." "No," I replied. "You were fighting," he said. "Yes. For me," he added. "Yes." He looked up at me, his eyes red. "Why didn't you tell me?" I swallowed hard. "Because I was afraid," I said honestly. "Afraid you'd see me differently. Afraid you'd hate me." He nodded slowly. "I do see you differently," he said. My heart sank. "But not the way you think," he continued. I looked at him. "I see how much you carried alone," he said. "I see how tired you must have been." Tears rolled down my face. "I never wanted you to carry it," I whispered. "I know," he said. "But you did. For me." We sat in silence again. Then he asked the question I had been waiting for. "The money," he said. "When I came to you, when I asked." I closed my eyes. "I knew that moment would come," I said. "I knew the truth couldn't stay buried forever." He nodded. "I thought you were hiding money," he said softly. "I didn't know you were hiding pain." I reached for his hand. "I should have trusted you sooner," I said. "And I should have listened better," he replied. We both let out small, broken laughs. For the first time in a long time, there was no fear between us. Only honesty. Weeks later, the house was quiet again. The broken door was fixed. The wooden box was gone. The papers were no longer hidden under my bed. The truth was no longer mine alone to carry. My son started over. Slowly. Carefully. This time, without shortcuts. And me. I finally slept through the night. Because the secret that ruled my life no longer owned me. The truth I was hiding did not destroy my son. It saved him. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss stories like this. These stories remind us that parents carry silent battles so their children can walk freely. And sometimes, the truth comes late, but it still matters. Also, tell us in the comments. Which country are you watching from? Do you believe parents should always hide the truth from their children, or should they tell them earlier? Your thoughts matter. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying until the end.